Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Can we do a very quick sound check? Sorry, you'll have to excuse me. Today's been a very busy day for me, both boxing related and non-boxing related. Can we do a quick check? Is the mic sounding nice and crisp? Is that microphone sounding Chris Andre-esque? If so, let's get going. Jason Walker, we would love to have you on tonight in the chat, Jason. So I'm going to go through some stuff for 10 minutes or so. But if you can't make it on, Jason, it's fine. But Jason, if you can make it on in 10 or 15 minutes and give your opinions, can you give me a shout in the chat, Jason? Because we'd love to hear from you. Hoping to get Shevin on as well, but I think Shevin's busy. Yeah, okay. So Jason Walker will be coming on. Brilliant. All right, Jason, give me 15 minutes and I'll put the link out and we'll get you on. Guys, let me just get this going. We've got 44 already in the chat within the first minute and a half, now up to 50. Please feel free to hit the like button if you like what we're doing here. And if you'd like to be part of the chat, please subscribe. Bump of K says, if anything, that mic is too clear. I mean, I've got to be very careful with this episode because what's going on at this minute in time is an absolute disgrace. Mrs. Ultra, can you please turn the light off in my room? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, let's get going. This is absolutely unfucking believable. British boxing is an absolute joke. A couple of hours ago, the British Board of Control have released the following statement, which you can see on the screen here. They do not want this fight to take place. They do not want Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. to take place. As you can see here, on the evening of the 4th of October 2022, the board of the British Boxing Board of Control Limited resolved that the contest between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, scheduled to take place on the 8th of October 2022, is prohibited as it's not in the interests of boxing. Now, we're going to get on to the British Boxing Board of Control in just a second, okay? Because there's some big question marks about when they found out about this adverse finding from Conor Benn and how long have they known about it. So we'll talk about the British Boxing Board of Control in just a second, okay? Now, we all thought when this statement came out from the British Boxing Board of Control that the fight was off. Guess what? The fight is not off. In fact, Eddie Hearn is fighting tooth and nail to keep this fight alive. Look at here. Eddie Hearn has stated that the lawyers are currently going back and forth with the British Boxing Board of Control after they announced that Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn is prohibited from taking place on Saturday night. And if you don't think it can get any worse, just look at this. Look at this from a promoter, and we'll talk about Eddie Hearn in a second, but from a promoter who has often spoken about how dangerous it is, how dangerous performance-enhancing drugs are in the sport of boxing. If you listen to this morning's show, you would have heard Eddie Hearn speak about how somebody could get killed, somebody could die in the ring, there could be criminal charges as a result of PEDs in the sport of boxing. He's now fighting tooth and nail, despite the British Boxing Board of Control saying we do not want this fight to take place. He's fighting to get it taken place. It's now being taken to the courts, and the latest news as of 25 minutes ago, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn reportedly may be sanctioned by the Luxembourg Boxing Federation, like David Haye versus Derek Chisora in 2012, after the BBC prohibited the fight due to Benn's positive VADA test. Those are the words of Michael Benson. I'd like to make it 100% clear. I am not accusing Conor Benn of intentionally doing or taking anything or breaking any rules. These episodes are not to blame Conor Benn. These episodes are not to talk about, what bans Conor Benn should be serving and what should happen. We're not here to be accusatory, or we're not the judge and the jury. As I've said before, right, it's down for the authorities and the legal teams to handle these proceedings in the correct manner. And it's not for me to be the judge of that. I am not the authorities. What I am commenting on these episodes, I want to make it clear. I'm not even commenting on Conor Benn. What did he do? What didn't he do? I'm commenting on, should this fight be allowed to take place? So I want to make that 100% clear, right? To everybody listening, on this show. 122 people within the first 5 minutes. Please feel free to hit the like button if you'd like to do so. If you'd like to be part of that chat, please feel free to subscribe and we will read your comments out. No super chats. All right. So that's the first thing. That's what we're going to be talking about. Should this fight take place? Now, Eddie Hearn's been doing the interviews, right? He's been doing the rounds on ID Boxing, all right? He was doing the rounds on ID Boxing. And before I bring Jason in and before we listen to Frank Warren, we've got some audio for you guys today. Frank Warren's had his say. We've got some previous Eddie Hearn clips, which are very contradictory. But I just want to go through some of the points that Eddie Hearn has been making, right? He's done a series of interviews this morning, which some people would say is damage control, okay, about the fight and should the fight take place. I'd like to challenge Eddie Hearn, all right, on a couple of the statements that he's made. And I'd also like to challenge Kalle Sauerland on one of the statements that he's made. First and foremost, chat, press 1 if I'm telling the truth or press 2 if I'm lying. Did Eddie Hearn and Kalle Sauerland in their interviews today to the media both say that the substance that was flagged by VADA on an adverse finding for Conor Benn, did those two say it was not performance enhancing? Press 1 if I've got that right, press 2 if I've got that wrong. Did I hear that right? Did I hear both Kalle Sauerland and Eddie Hearn both refer to the substance that was flagged up by WADA in an adverse finding? Did I both hear Kalle Sauerland and Eddie Hearn refer to that as non-performance enhancing? I believe I did. If I did not, I apologise to Eddie Hearn and Kalle Sauerland in advance. From what I heard, my interpretation of what I heard Kalle Sauerland say on TalkSport and my interpretation of what I've heard Eddie Hearn say on multiple boxing interviews today is they've questioned whether what was flagged in that WADA test was performance enhancing, right? This is Mr. Ross Tucker. He is from the Science of Sport, all right? Let's have a look at this man's credentials. Sports scientist and a PhD in exercise physiology, all right? 103,000 followers currently on Twitter. Let me just read this. This is an article, right? And on this article, what they've done is, this is the substance. This is an article about the substance that was flagged up in Conor Benn's VADA test. And what they're doing is they're testing its effects on testosterone. All right. So what they've done is in this experiment, they've taken some healthy males and they've given them this substance that was flagged on Conor Benn's test. And they've given it to them every day for a 30-day period. And they've monitored the effects on the levels of testosterone in the system. Richard and George, you are both scientists. Am I correct on that? In the meantime, let's just have a look at this. What does it say here? Clomiphene is a performance-enhancing drug commonly abused by males in sport. Have I read that correctly? Have I read that first line correctly? If you look just underneath abstract, press 3 if I've read that line correctly. The only reason I've said that is because there's some people online that seem to be advancing the case that what's being flagged up by VADA in an adverse finding is not a performance-enhancing drug. All I'm doing now is I'm looking at a study that's been retweeted on Twitter from a sports scientist with a PhD. He's saying, this study says, clomiphene is a performance-enhancing drug. That's the first fucking line. Yeah? Right, shall we carry on? Okay, George T says 3, reading ability on point. All right, let's have a look at the results of this experiment, okay? Let's have a look at this results of the experiment. Let's have a quick look at the objective of the experiment. To determine the effects of once daily 30-day clomiphene treatment on serum testosterone and gonadotrophin levels. I don't have a clue what all of that means, but what I interpret that is, this study is to determine the effect of what happens to your testosterone levels when you take this stuff once daily for 30 days. Let's have a look at the results. Results. And this is the part in blue that the lovely PhD has highlighted for us. Mean testosterone and mean testosterone, LH and FSH levels increased 146%, 177% and 170% respectively during treatment compared with baseline. Richard and George, you are both scientists. You are both scientists and my de facto legal team. Am I so far within legal bounds so far, guys? Have I, is this Ultratech being biased? Is this Ultratech's on the Frank Warren payroll? Is this Ultratech, an Ultratech agenda? Or am I just reading a study which has been retweeted on Twitter by a PhD sports scientist, making it clear that A, this is a performance enhancing drug, and that B, studies have shown that it increases testosterone in people who take it? Is that a yes or a no? Give me a yes if I've got that right, and give me a no if I haven't. Richard is saying so far so good. Okay, so that's point number one. All right, that's point number one. I would be very questioning of any individual that's currently coming on Twitter or doing interviews anywhere online and advancing the case that this is not a performance enhancing drug. The information that I am seeing currently online from PhD scientists, they seem to think this is a performance enhancing drug. Right, let's move on to my next point of contention. So that's the first point of contention that I'd like to raise, right? That's the first point of contention I'd like to raise with some of the things that I believe I've heard Eddie Hearn and Kalasau land today over what constitutes a performance enhancing drug. If you like the content so far, please feel free to hit the like button. We've got 180 in the chat, all right? And only 56 likes. We'll be getting callers coming in. Jason Walker will be coming in about 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll be getting people on. Let's go to the second point of that I've seen Eddie Hearn raise. Press 7 if you've heard Eddie Hearn raise this point, or press 8 if you think I'm lying. Was I living in an alternate universe, or did I hear Eddie Hearn say today that this situation was exactly the same as the Billy Joe Saunders situation when Billy Joe Saunders failed a test for oxylifrine? Press 7 if I'm right about that, and press 8 if I'm wrong. Did you guys hear that? I believe I heard Eddie Hearn say that this current Conor Benn situation is identical or very similar to the Billy Joe Saunders situation when Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for oxylifrine. Right, there's a lot of 7s in the chat, right? Loads of 7s in the chat. Okay, right. So it wasn't just me who heard that. LD Phoenix is a snitch. He's saying, yes, he did say that. Okay, fine. So, right. Okay, right. So you guys think I heard that. Okay. Let's just have a look at something, all right? I have ADHD. I'm a programmer with ADHD. I'm probably one of the thickest people you will meet. But what I did have a look at before we came on the show is I have a list here. And I'm not sure if this list is up to date or not. I think it's from 2022, but I believe I have a list, yeah, of the WADA prohibited list. So for those of you who don't know, right, UCAD's list of prohibited substances comes from WADA, yeah? They follow the prohibited substances that are designated here by the World Anti-Doping Association. Let's have a look at this substance that Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for. Let's have a look. Just give me a sec, because as usual, I've completely bottled it and fluffed my notes because I can't spell. Here we go. Here's my point of contention when people say, well, this Conor Benn situation is exactly the same as the situation involving Billy Joe Saunders. We're having a look here at the list of prohibited stimulants, right, on the WADA anti-doping list. But look at this. What does this say? Can you see what it says here? This is a list of prohibited of substances that are prohibited in competition. In competition. And as you can see here, oxylifrine will be on this list. If I can find it, bosh, there's oxylifrine. So oxylifrine is on the list of stimulants that are banned in competition. Press yes. Are you following me, guys, so far? Am I making sense so far? If I am, just give me a quick list, yeah? So this is what Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for, as far as I'm aware. He tested positive for acetylphrine. This is on the list, yeah, of stimulants that are banned in competition. When Billy Joe Saunders took this substance, or when Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for acetylphrine, did he test positive in competition? No, he did not. He did not test positive in competition. The substance that Billy Joe Saunders was tested positive for, you're prohibited from taking it in competition. Billy Joe Saunders was not in competition when he was tested positive for this substance. In fact, here's the link to prove it. BoxingNewsOnline.net. Let's bring up the article. Just gonna bring it here. They won't let me highlight it, but if you just look here, I'm just gonna thing here. Look at this. The confusion surrounding the result, meanwhile, centers on this key point. The stimulant in question, chemically linked to asthma medication ephedrine, was revealed to only be banned under the World Anti-Doping Association's in-competition code, which meant Saunders, who ingested the substance while out of competition, would not have failed a test conducted by UK anti-doping because he took it outside of competition when the drug is prohibited in competition. Now, what's the relevance of this? What's the name of the drug that we're talking about at the minute? That was it's alleged that Conor Benn has had an adverse finding for. Let's have a look at the name of that drug. Is it called clomiphene? Let's have a look at clomiphene on this list of substances. Here we go. Let's have a look. Oh, what does this say? Prohibited at all times in and out of competition. So with that being said, yeah, with the fact that these two have tested for completely different drugs that have completely different fucking rules attached to when you can and can't take them, press 9 if you'd agree with me that Eddie Hearn is incorrect at best when he says that what's happening in this current situation with Conor Benn is the same as what's happening in the current situation with Billy Joe Saunders. Because what Conor Benn, the substance that Conor Benn is alleged to have flagged for on a VADA test is prohibited at all times. There is no time where you should ever have this in your system, according to the fucking VADA rulebook. Right, Richard's saying we're still okay. We're still okay, Richard? Yeah? What do you think? Right, 303 in the chat. If you like what you're hearing, please feel free to hit the like button. I'm putting my ass on the line doing this, guys, and it's very, very rare if I do research anymore, especially when it pertains to British boxing. But 311 in the chat, please feel free to hit the like button. Again, I'm not accusing Conor Benn of doing anything. I'm simply stating that the substance that it's alleged that he was flagged for in a VADA test by the Daily Mail, and which has been confirmed in a statement by Matcher and Wazerman, is prohibited at all times. What Billy Joe Saunders took, you are allowed to take if it's out of competition. So, two completely different scenarios. Right, let's move on to something else I'd like to talk about very quickly as well. I'd like to talk about this. Did I hear this wrong? So, press 4 if you think I am right on this, and press 5 if you think I'm wrong. Did I hear correctly, or did Eddie Hearn say there was a big problem because UKAD do not recognise the results of a VADA test result? Did I hear that correctly, or did Eddie Hearn not say that in today's interview? Did he not say the problem is there's a technicality because UKAD don't recognise the results from VADA? They don't recognise the results of VADA test results. Richard, George C, some of the other guys, let me know if you think you heard that. I could have sworn I heard Eddie Hearn say that in the interview. Pertain to the fact that UKAD... okay, excuse me. Crazy D3 saying 5. He said the BBOC, right. Is that right? He said the BBOC, not UKAD. Okay, right, if I've got that wrong, I apologise. Let me just go back to something. Has anybody ever got any proof, just out of interest, that the Bbboc do not recognise results from a UCAD test? So I'm just out of interest, where has that come from? Where has that come from? The reason why I say that is the following. Chris Rob Williams, who's a very, very good journalist on Twitter, a bit anti the zone, but a very, very good journalist on Twitter, has spotted this here. These are the British Boxing Board of Control's rules, right? RE anti-doping. All licence holders agreed to cooperate fully with any world anti-doping compliant anti-doping investigations or proceedings, whether conducted by a UK anti-doping or any other competent body. Richard and George, give me a yes or a no. Am I still on track? Can we still keep talking, or am I going to find myself? On the stand here? I mean, where here does it say anything? I'm just trying. Where in here does it say anything about the Bbboc or UCAD don't accept the findings of a VADA test? Where's that come from? Where is that come from? Where is this stuff come from about this technicality between the Bbboc and VADA? Because what I've just read there in that paragraph seems to tell maybe a slightly different story. Somebody let me know what you feel about that. Because I've been hearing a few people today say, oh, well, it doesn't matter because the Bbboc, they don't follow what VADA say, or, UCAD don't follow what VADA say. Well, I'm looking at the BBC rules here. The British Boxing Board of Control rules say that you need to cooperate fully with any World Anti-Doping Code compliant anti-doping investigations. And I always assumed that VADA were World Anti-Doping compliant. I tell you what, let's say it a different way, right? This is a video that's doing the rounds everywhere at the minute. This is Eddie Hearn. Back in when was this? Hold on. Let me get the one from D-Star Boxing. Hold on. Let me get the one from D-Star Boxing on Eddie Hearn. One sec. Very, very interesting video on Eddie Hearn being contradictory. Oh, Jesus Christ. Being contradictory on what is going on here. Here we go. Let me get this up and you tell me if there's been something very, very contradictory going on. Here we go. Let me get this up. So I've botched this one, but just bear with me on this. Let me just get this up on the screen. Here we go. Right. Press 1 if you can hear this, and then let me know if you think there's a contradiction from Eddie Hearn here.
The ongoing process now with the investigation, it's a difficult situation for the board because the board do not acknowledge VADA testing. You remember?
Did you hear what he just said there, by the way? Did you hear that? He said the board do not acknowledge VADA testing. That's interesting. Does anybody... I'm not saying Eddie Hearn's right. Maybe Eddie Hearn's... I'm not saying Eddie Hearn's wrong. Maybe he's right. But does anybody have any evidence that the British Boxing Board of Control do not recognise VADA testing? Because if you look at that paragraph that we just read there from Chris Rob Williams, it seems to say that might not necessarily be the case. But anyway, let's carry on. So he said, the British Boxing Board of Control don't recognise VADA testing. Anyway, let's carry on.
It's a difficult situation for the board because the board do not acknowledge VADA testing. You remember when Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for VADA, he was banned by the Massachusetts Commission. The board did not suspend him or ban him because they don't acknowledge VADA. They only acknowledge UCAD, of which Conor Benn has had multiple testing for this fight, and it's all been negative. So there's a lot to digest and go through, and right now, obviously, the legal teams are speaking with the board. They have to be comfortable as well to obviously sanction the fight, and we'll see how it unfolds.
I don't need to save money. I want to put on good fights. So that was a good fight for DAZN. So I'm disappointed. But what is the point in signing up for drug testing if when you fail, everyone just goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just let him fight." You know.
Yeah.
So the argument of, well, it's all right with UKAD is totally irrelevant. You've signed.
Did you just hear that there? What he just said there in this interview from before? He said the argument of, oh, well, you passed with UKAD is totally irrelevant. Look at this. Let's just do this one more time. Shout out to D-Star Boxing. Just listen to this.
VADA testing. You remember when Billy Joe Saunders
Hold
the
on.
investigation?
1 sec.
Ongoing process now with the investigation. It's a difficult situation for the board because the board do not acknowledge VADA testing. You remember when Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for VADA? He was banned by the Massachusetts Commission. The board did not suspend him or ban him because they don't acknowledge VADA. They only acknowledge UKAD, of which Conor Benn has had multiple testing for this fight, and it's all been negatives.
Right. And in here, he seems to be saying something completely fucking different.
I want to put on good fights, so that was a good fight for DAZN. So I'm disappointed. But what is the point in signing up for drug testing if when you fail, everyone just goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just let him fight." You know.
Yeah.
So the argument of, well, it's all right with UKAD is totally irrelevant. You've signed drug testing with VADA, the best testing agency, in my opinion, in the sport.
What did he just say? He just said VADA was the best testing agency in the sport. Eh? Eh?
Testing agency.
One more time. Sorry, guys.
Totally irrelevant. You've signed drug testing with VADA, the best testing agency, in my opinion, in the sport.
What? So Eddie Hearn's on record saying VADA is the best testing agency in the sport. VADA have reported to him that one of his fighters may have had an adverse substance in their system. We've already looked at the list of prohibited substances here, and we can clearly see that this substance, clomiphene, which I'm not showing for some reason, I don't know why it's not showing on my screen here. Don't know why it's not showing on my screen. Sorry that, but you can clearly see, as we've shown before, that it's on the list of banned substances. Just share my different screen there. Here we go. Sorry about that. Here you go. You can clearly see it's on the list of banned substances. So he says VADA is the gold standard. You've just heard him. VADA is the best testing agency there is. Well, they've told him that one of his fighters may have flagged up for a substance that's prohibited at all times, in and out of competition. So my question is this. How on earth can this fight be allowed to take place? How? This isn't about blaming Conor Benn. This isn't about saying anything about Conor Benn. The question's about the fight. How on earth can this fight take place with all the evidence that you've heard today in this show? In half an hour. And I'm a light-skinned guy with ADHD who's one of the stupidest dudes on the planet. And just with 5 minutes of research, I've been able to go online and raise big question marks on pretty much everything that Eddie Hearn's been spouting in his interviews. And do you know what makes it worse? They knew about this in August. August. Am I right or am I wrong? Can someone let me know? Did these guys know about this failed test in August? Or was it September? Excuse me. I believe it may have been September. Sorry. I rephrased that. But they knew about this in August, September time. So here's the question I want to ask, and I'm going to bring in Jason Walker. Let me get the link out for Jason Walker, by the way. Jason, let me know if you're ready, and then we'll bring the link out. I'll bring the link. Jason, I'm going to give you the link now. Blue Collar Sports is always welcome on this channel. I know he's not a big fan of coming on, but I'm just saying Blue Collar Sports, if you were to come on, I wouldn't boot you out. There's the link in the chat. Jason Walker, we are ready for you when you are ready. Here's my point. How on earth can this fight be allowed to carry on? How long can this charade carry on for? We'll have to wait and see. Sanctioned by Luxembourg. I think all involved should be absolutely... And listen, we all make mistakes. Look, I've made some terrible mistakes. We all make mistakes. But what this is about hypocrisy. This isn't about getting people kicked out of the sport. I'm not interested in getting Conor Benn banned, or it's not about putting Conor Benn down. It's not about snitching on people. It's all about hypocrisy. These people were very, very vocal when it was Jarrell Miller. They were very, very vocal when it was other fighters. Now, all of a sudden, they're doing a complete 180. Questions have to be asked. Eddie Hearn has said today he wants the British Board of Control to be comfortable with putting this fight on. How could they ever be comfortable putting this fight on? Look at the nature of the drug involved as well. And do you not think that's important as well, that we look at the nature of the drug? Do you know how many times I've seen people from the gym on Twitter today? We've even had somebody in our chat today say, we know what this drug is. We've taken it. Have you guys seen us on Twitter? I mean, this isn't just any drug. I mean, some people online are saying this is one of the most popular drugs that people use after, blah, blah, blah. There are people in this chat and there are people all over Twitter who are saying, we've used this and we know what this is for because we fucking used it. Now, I'm not accusing Conor Benn of saying anything. What I'm saying is, with that being known, as I bring in the main man himself, my brother from another mother, Mr. Jason Walker, how on earth can this be allowed to continue? Now, Jason, before I let you go, I know you're savage. We've got the lawyers on the go, Jason. I've got my lawyers here and my fact checkers watching this. So we've got to be careful what we say. We're not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not accusing Eddie Hearn of anything. This is simply my opinion, and I've raised some questions. I'm not accusing anybody of intentionally taking anything. I'm not accusing anybody of intentionally trying to harm anybody. With that being said, if you'd like to hear another opinion, you're going to hear one from Jason. Jason, what are your initial thoughts to what you've heard, this breaking news that broke earlier on today, Jason?
It's disgusting, bro. It's disgusting. It's disgusting just because of how they can even think of letting this fight go ahead. Like I said, I wasn't even happy this fight was going ahead when we spoke about it first of all. I was excited as the fight drew closer, as any boxing fan would be. But the fact they're trying to swing this thing just for money, is unbelievable. Look, the thing you said about Billy Joe, spot on with that. Also, do you remember how hard Eddie went to get Billy stripped? Don't you remember them falling out? And then it was mad. Billy went to Matchroom. Hey, don't you remember? If you go back and look at a video of Billy's dad and what Billy's dad done and said about. I swear you can find it. I haven't even seen it. I just remember it. Billy's dad laid into Eddie, laid into him so hard. You're a disgrace to British boxing. This is it. Yeah, that's it. Went mad at him. I remember. So yeah, that was just that's disgusting that he's trying to do that stuff. You know what I mean? Let me just quickly say as well, that substance that you're talking about, yeah, that substance is a substance that Brock Lesnar got banned for a year for in the UFC. Just go back and check that. Brock Lesnar got banned for a year for that substance. So yeah, take what you want from that about Eddie saying it's not a performance enhancing drug. Ask Brock Lesnar. Look at the size. I tell you what, Conor Benn's neck's looking awfully big as well, brother. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not implying nothing. I'm just saying he's got a big neck, kind of like Brock Lesnar.
Let me tell you something right now, Jason. You look at this fight, Jason, right? Eddie Hearn saying he wants the British Boxing Board of Control to be comfortable with this fight happening. Jason, let's just have a look at what Chris Eubank Jr. has gone up against in this fight. The man, had to get down to 157 pounds or something. There's apparently a rehydration clause, and now it's turned out that his opponent may have had an issue with a drugs test. How on earth can anybody with a straight face be comfortable with this fight taking place? And Jason, if this fight was to take place and anything was to happen, God forbid if anything was to happen to Chris Eubank Jr. or Conor Benn in that ring, how could Matchroom Boxing continue to promote boxing in this country? Knowing...
Go on.
No, go on, Jason. No, jump in.
Everything you said's true. I can't say anything to it. Everything you're saying is so true. It's ridiculous. This is making... I swear Eddie ain't long for this sport because he is making a mockery of it. In the last 2 weeks with the whole farce with what's going on, I'm not speaking about that, but the Fury stuff. And now this, like, is he crazy or something? It's a joke. Like, he's making a joke of the sport. And it's terrible. Not just a joke. He's putting people's lives at risk. Like, you know what I mean? There's blatantly been fighters that have been hurt. Thank God that we don't know that the fighters have been using, because there is enough using in sport. But we don't know about it. But that's just, it's mad that you're going to put someone in. It's like the Valdez situation. What did Hearn say about the Valdez situation? I'm sure he stuck his nose in with that Valdez shit, saying, how can you put someone in the ring that's failed the test and all that shit? I tell you what, Eubank wants to consider himself lucky because Rivas didn't get told fuck all.
And that's the thing. And Rivas did. Now, Eddie Hearn said something very, very interesting today. They asked Eddie Hearn, when did Eubank find out, right? And Eddie Hearn said Eubank found out at the same time because it was a VADA test, and because they'd all signed up for VADA, they all get the results. Now, I wonder if that wasn't a VADA test, yeah, maybe if it was a different body or a different something, I wonder if Eubank would have heard about it. Because you're right, you know, Jason. Listen, the bottom line of it is, how come, these things happen weeks and months ago, the promoters seem to carry on like nothing's going on, and then at the last minute we seem to find out of... Do you know what it makes me think, Jason? It makes me think, with all due respect, how many other instances of this stuff is going on in boxing, and we have no fucking idea like what's going on? Because the Oscar Rivas thing, we were never supposed to know about that Oscar Rivas thing, right? We were never supposed to know about the Oscar Rivas situation until Hauser went and fucked them up at the last minute and broke it, right? I don't think we were supposed to know about this either.
Spot on, right? This fight was going to go ahead. The Boxing Board of Control were happy until it was in the public eye. And
exactly.
Daily Mail, yeah? So you have to ask yourself that question. Do you know what I mean? You have to ask yourself.
What is going on? What is going on? It is what it is, and we're quite hamstrung in terms of like what we can say about it. What's your feeling about whether the fight will go ahead? I think this fight is going to happen.
It is going to happen. There's too much money involved, isn't it? There's too much money, but I just, it's mad. Everyone's saying, like, even everyone is hardly ever all together in boxing, like, but yeah, they're all behind this fight not happening. Like, it's ridiculous. And Eubank, I don't know, like, what about Benn's name now? Benn's name's in tatters, bro.
I mean, I said earlier on the earlier show, I said, what does Conor Benn have to gain from this other than money? Other than money, I can't think of a single thing that Conor Benn has to gain by stepping in the ring on Saturday night. He's stepping in the ring against a guy who's going to be bigger, right? I don't even know if Eubank's going to adhere to that rehydration clause, because if he doesn't, what are they going to do? They ain't going to do nothing, are they? If I'm Chris Eubank Jr., if I'm Chris Eubank Jr., see with that weight thing, all bets are off. I'm coming in the ring 180. I hope Chris Eubank Jr. is at a Five Guys. Like, they're saying there's a rehydration clause. I don't think they're going to enforce that, Jason. I don't think they're going to enforce that.
Nah, they can't. That's ridiculous. Like, he might still come in at the proper weight, but there's no way they'll enforce the rehydration clause. That shit's been sorted out like 100%. Yeah, Eubank will come in at 170 now. Yeah, he will 100%.
So,
and also quickly, does anybody think I'm not dropping anything? I'm not saying this for 100, but just saying, like, someone. That's what I was saying earlier. They should have added this on. Someone has leaked this story to the press.
Yes.
Right now. It would make sense that someone on Team Eubank linked this.
I had a chat with somebody. No. Listen.
Maybe even someone senior who was against the fight coming out. Maybe.
Let me tell you right now. So
I gave you love.
I asked that question today from somebody who's very, very privy to these kind of informations, right? A guy who constantly gets information, guy who talks to boxers, right? And a guy who kind of knows people who work for different people. And I asked him, and I actually said to him, I think it's come from Eubank Senior. And he said to me, though, he said, listen, I've been around boxing for a long time. I've spoken to these people. It could have come from anywhere. He goes, I've heard some of the information I've heard in the past. This guy's very reliable. He's told me big fights in the past. He said, Ultra, just let you know, they're making this fight and it's going to happen around this time. I've seen so-and-so in the gym. He's already in training. Yeah. And he said to me, he's heard this kind of stuff from all kinds of people, like, you know, people who, just people you wouldn't believe, all kinds of people. So he said, listen, he said, don't assume it's actually Eubank Senior, he said to me. It could be anybody in the game. Having said that, I will say this, Jason. I think that, you know, Chris Eubank Senior, as I said before in today's show, was supposed to be a key part of the promotion for this show, wasn't there? Like, what we wanted to see was the dads go at it. Because no one, like I said before, no one really cares about the legacy, yeah, of Ben Jr. and Eubank Jr., yeah? What we do is we care about how this affects the legacy of the fathers, innit? And we care about the story with the fathers and what happened there, right? So we want to see the fathers involved, didn't we? Do you remember when that fight happened, Jason? And we were speculating, yeah, that there was going to be like, you know, we were speculating that there was going to be a gloves are off between the fathers, and we were going to see between the dads, and we were going to see, we were going to see the dads get involved, and we were going to see them all get involved. And then all of a sudden, Chris Eubank Senior decides he doesn't want to get involved. Right, and I find it
because of the weight, first of all.
Exactly.
But yeah, go on.
And then he raised health concerns, didn't he? And said, I don't want any part of this fight. I'm boycotting this fight because of health concerns. Now, I'll find it in a minute. Apparently, Eddie Hearn's on the record as saying that he's just got sour grapes, yeah? And that he shouldn't be doing that. And look what's happened at the same time now. I wonder, I'm going to try and find the dates of when Eddie Hearn said that Chris Eubank Senior shouldn't be boycotting the fight. But I'm trying to find out if he said that, knowing the whole time that there was a problem with drug testing. I mean, it's just the whole thing's been a fucking disaster. The whole thing's been a fucking disaster. And you just wonder, how much did Eubank Senior know? Did he know more than he was letting on, Jason?
Everything starts to fit into place. And at first he wasn't happy with the weight. And if they're saying this has been around since August, then all of that stuff from Senior coming out has all been about this, about the drug test, about that. Then he's saying boycott the fight. Everybody's thinking, right, come on, bruv. Like, what are you saying, boycott the fight? It's a bit excessive, isn't it? Well, not now, you know, one of them might have been using. And all this thing about trace amounts.
Yeah.
What do you mean trace amounts? Like, people don't cycle off. What are you talking about?
Go on, Jason. Go on.
And like, when you take something, people will know you take it and then you can cycle off it. But Ben won't have the high testosterone if he was taking it, but he still have the muscle mass and the strength. What are you talking about? The waffle that is coming out of these people's mouth is fucking sickening to try and make a fight about money. It's just disgusting, bruv. Like, it gets me a bit angry.
Yeah, I did hear that. I did hear Eddie talk about where it's only trace amounts. Well, again, like I said before, I've checked, the actual World Anti-Doping Code today. And as far as they're concerned, unless they explicitly state, there are certain drugs where they explicitly state that whether you've violated or not depends on how much you've taken. But it's only on certain drugs, and they make it very, very clear, over, what amounts you should and shouldn't be taking. As a general rule, they do tend to say, look, if you've taken something or if you've got something in your system, that's it. The amounts you've got don't necessarily mean, if you've got a small amount or it doesn't matter. And I'm very surprised to hear Eddie Hearn say that and talk about trace amounts and things like that. There was another point that I was gonna make as well, and it was going back to the point about Conor Benn and the way he's been managed. Like I said, I was gonna get your thoughts on this. If you were him right now, other than money, Jason, he gets nothing out of it. If he pulls off the impossible, not the impossible, but if he pulls off this fight and wins this fight, he's going to get nothing out of it. He can't be a big star. BBC, as you can see here from Michael Benson tonight, would you just show a documentary on BBC tonight about Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, Born Rivals? They've pulled that tonight. That was due to be shown at 9:30 tonight. They've pulled it. BBC have pulled the documentary. Look, there you go. BBC have now changed. The BBC have now changed their schedule and will not be airing the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn Born Rivals documentary on BBC tonight. So they fucking pulled that because they don't want to be associated with this fucking garbage that Eddie Hearn is trying to strong arm the British Boxing Board of Control into being okay with. So what the fuck does Conor Benn have to gain here? Other than money, What does he? I mean, this is he's supposed to be the number 2 star over there after Anthony Joshua. I mean, the whole thing's a fucking disaster, Jason.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Eddie's downfall. Oh god, shit! Yeah, it's an absolute disaster. It's a PR nightmare. Like, and the fact you're trying to salvage the fight is an even bigger PR nightmare. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that thing in the Big Short, or that film where he says dog shit and cat shit. It's just wrapping dog shit up in cat shit. It's mad. Like, it's you got one situation that's terrible, and like you need to like nip that shit in the bud. Okay, we realize this is how we're gonna go about. We're gonna test the B sample. We're gonna do that. We're gonna go away. You need to take it and bite the bullet. You know what I mean? They're trying to just salvage it. Like, oh, it's just fucking terrible to watch.
Let me get your reaction to this. So we're going to play some audio and we'll get your reaction. Guys, we're going to be here for another 10 or so minutes. Of course.
To the comments, yeah? I saw when I was in the comments there, there were a few people going crazy. I want to hear what Belliew's got to say.
Do you want to have a look at his Twitter right now? Let's have a look at his Twitter. Because his OnlyFans is missing. Let's have a look. Tony Bellew hasn't tweeted since October the 4th. So Tony Bellew hasn't tweeted since yesterday. Right, let's have a look at Tony Bellew on IFL TV. He was on IFL TV last night, yeah? Talking about Fury and Anthony Joshua. So Tony Bellew is around. There he is. Look, 21 hours ago, there he is. He's saying it was never happening. Tony Bellew doesn't hold back. Brutally honest. Fury, AJ, Eubank and Ben. Tony Bellew hasn't been seen since. Where's Tony Bellew's brutal honesty right now?
This has finally got Tony Bellew to like go home and not come out like he said he would, isn't it?
Jason, look at this. What do you think about this? This is Tony Bellew on the 24th of January 2020. This is his Twitter. I'm going to read it right now, Jason. Yeah. All people taking PEDs, you stupid idiot. Everyone knows what the serious PEDs are. HGH, clenbuterol, nandrolone, the list goes on. Anyone injecting these or using drips needs banning for life. Listen to this. For the last time, all PED cheats should be banned for life. If you fail for an over-the-counter substance, you should be punished, but not banned for life. Oh, okay, right. So he's gone. But you can see there, banned for life. And also, that's what he's talking.
Also, not trying to throw mud or anything, but the thing like Billy Joe, obviously, I think obviously he was doing something, but his thing was. It was in a nasal spray. It can be in a nasal spray for having a decongestion or a cold or anything like that. So there's much more scope for saying, this is how it got into my system. What did Conor Benn test for? A fertility treatment.
Well, this is the thing, Jason. We've got to be careful what we say.
How are you going to pull that off?
We've got to be careful what we say here, right? But again, I'm not accusing Conor Benn of doing anything, and nor's Jason. Jason's just.
I'm just saying I can't wait to hear the good reason which he's honestly going to come with, which is going to be truthful and honest about how that carelessly got into his system. I'll be interested to hear that. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely, and I think that is a very, very fair comment. Lots of people are asking why a female fertility drug would have found its way into a certain system. All right, Jason, let's play some snippets. We've got some interesting snippets to play. All right, so let's play them for them all, and let's get your because a couple of people, Jason, they're quite keen on looking at some of the things that have been said in the past by Eddie Hearn because they're convinced that there's some form of inconsistency going on between what Eddie Hearn's saying now about this fight and what he's been saying in the past. If I can just find it, or maybe not find it, somebody will let me know. Just give me a sec. Here we go. Bosh, 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 bosh. All right, guys, let me know if you can hear this.
The issue of the VADA rules not kind of being in line with WADA, UCAD, etc., does it kind of create a grey area for whether he's done wrong or not?
Not really. We signed up for a VADA test and he failed a VADA test. If we'd signed up for a WADA test or a UCAD test only, he would still be fighting. But we signed up for a VADA test. And, you know, I've spoken to the British Boxing Board of Control. If UCAD and WADA don't do something about this for boxing, this is going to end in tears and injury.
Did you hear that? We signed up for. Let me just replay that one more time, Jay. Let me just play this bit one more time.
Not really. We signed up for a VADA test and he failed a VADA test.
We signed up for a VADA test and he failed a VADA test.
If we'd signed up for a WADA test or a UCAD test only, he would still be fighting.
If we signed up for a UCAD test only, he'd still be fighting. But they signed up for a VADA test. So what the fuck is going on here, Jason, in this clip? This is a joke, isn't it? Why in this country are we basically ignoring the results? Yeah. well, actually, Jason, we'll get onto that in a second because Jason, excuse me, no one's ignored the results. They haven't got for the B sample yet, Jason. Jason, this issue happened in September.
I know,
right?
Libby,
and the B sample has not been requested. Let me just play you this. This is Rob Tebbutt, right? And let me get your opinion on this. I'll bring you in a sec. Sorry, I'm all over the place at the minute, Joe, and I apologise. But let me just get on to you about this. This is Rob Tebbutt, who's a friend of the show. This is Rob Tebbutt questioning Eddie Hearn, yeah, on today's thing. I just want to play this for the people, and then we'll get your view on this. What do you guys think about this? Because this is another point of view. It's about the B sample, and it's about the question of why haven't we got the B sample yet? Why haven't we got to the bottom of this B sample?
Why is the B sample not been tested yet?
Because just a timing issue. You know,
when was the test?
We're talking about a couple of weeks ago. So
how long does it take for a B sample to be put through?
It depends on, once you hear the reasons why that opening was required by a scientist, you will see why. I can't say too much on it at the moment, but ultimately that sample will be tested by a specialist, and all those conversations have been taking place.
Do you know what he said? When did you hear about that? He said a couple of weeks ago.
Tested by before Mickey Mouse. What
About? Where is this B sample? And why are we in a situation where another B sample? It's been weeks. It's been weeks, and they said they haven't sent off the B. Can I ask you a question? I've got to be very, very careful what I say here, right? But I think certain people are concerned, right? I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just gonna talk to you about concerns that some people are having online. Some people online are very, very concerned that there's been a delay in the decision on the B sample, because if the B sample is either, according to the rules, if the B sample is either waived, you can either waive it and say, look, we don't want the B sample, yeah, or you can say, yes, test my B sample. I'm not going along with these findings. But you have to do one or the other. And if you do one or the other, then you get a result. Now, some people are concerned, right, that if you don't do either, if you don't explicitly say we're waiving the B sample, or you don't request it, so you just do nothing, you wait, you wait on it, you're effectively stalling. Basically, what people are concerned about is there's been a delay in a decision on a B sample because certain individuals might want this fight to happen. And the B sample would fuck things up. Because if the B sample is either waived or if the B sample is processed, then there's more chance of a decision happening. Sorry, I'm talking absolute rubbish. Does that make sense to the guys in the chat? And does that make sense to what people are concerned about why this B sample is being... Let me just play this one more time. Hold on. Did he say weeks? Hold on one sec.
For a B sample to be put through?
It depends on, once you hear the reason.
Test.
We're talking about a couple of weeks ago. So
how long does it take for a B sample to be put through?
It depends on, once you hear the reasons why that...
So yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago. But the B sample still ain't been dealt with, Jason. Sorry about that. Carry on.
No, I was just listening. I'm just putting my charger in, man. Yeah, first of all, when was that interview?
That was today.
Well, it wasn't a couple of weeks ago, was it? Because it was end of August. So it was over 4 weeks ago already.
I mean,
it's just all bullshit. It's just bullshit. And if it was real, they would have sent the B sample off straight away. They know the B sample because it's going to come back positive. Obviously, like 99.9% of B samples come back positive, or the same, or not positive, the same as what's in the A sample.
Yeah. So
everybody knows that it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Otherwise, unless it's got tampered with or anything, but the chances of that happening are just ridiculously unlikely. Eddie's just stalling for time because he wanted to get this fight over the line. They thought they could brush it under the bed, just like they tried to do with the Revas thing. Imagine how many B samples Eddie's got under his
right, that's Jason Walker's opinion there, and not the opinions of me or the opinions of the show. That's Jason.
No,
That's fine. Right, Jay, let's play another one more, and then we'll get going. What do you think about this? Actually, sorry, you guys can't hear the sound, Jason. Let me play you one more, and then we'll wrap it up, Jason. I really appreciate you coming on at short notice. It's my second show today, Jason. This is about Buatsi and Pascal. You'll like this one.
Bullshit. Got no problem with this fight happening on BT. What I've got a problem with is VADA testing not being in the contract. I can't let my fighter go in with a fighter off the back of John Pascal's failed test without VADA testing in the contract. Not, yes, we've all written off to Margaret and then once it's signed, we'll pay for it and get it done. Bollocks, I don't trust you. In the contract.
There you go, Jay. I mean, it is what it is. All right, Jay. In
Quickly,
terms, of course, and
yeah.
And address any comments. If you see any comments in the chat you want to address, Jay, you're more than welcome, bro.
Yeah, just from earlier, there was a few comments I just want to say because there's a few people in the comments that probably want to just have this addressed. First of all, the phone call that never happened and then was cut out of the Matchroom broadcast. Did you see that?
I've heard rumours that it's not true that there was a phone call between the two of them, but I don't know if that's the case or not.
Phone call, and Eddie and everyone on the side said, yeah, there was a phone call, and then Chris Eubank come out and said there wasn't a phone call, and it was filmed by an alternative media outsource. I don't know who by, but but yeah, then it was blatantly filmed by someone else, and they caught him saying that Howard it was lies and basically thing. But Matchroom cut it out. So there's that, and also I will just say in the interview, you know, I mean, Conor Benn did. They asked Conor Benn when they were talking to him, and they said to him, one sec, because I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. I just thought it was interesting.
No rush. Absolutely. In the meantime, let me just go through some of your comments, and then Jason will quickly come back. Go on, Jason's back. Go on, Jay. Go on.
Yeah, Conor said I didn't say I hadn't taken anything, like because it was a fertility drug. Like he just said I'm not suspended. They asked him about it, and he was said, "Oh, I'm just not suspended." They asked him about it, and he didn't mention it at all. He didn't say it. So his lawyers have told him to keep stum. You know,
so we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see on that per se. But yeah, I think I understand what you're saying there completely. What's being said at the minute is, it's not been confirmed that he's violated any rules. He's not. Yes. He's not in breach at the moment of any anti-doping violations. All I will say in regards of that, and I think this is what you want to say, and I just want to clarify, and I'll let you go on. I think Rob Tebbett made the same point here. I think the point that Rob Tebbett was making is, well, they wouldn't be because we need to get sort of an answer on the B sample, don't we? And I think that's kind of what he was going on. Sorry, Jason. No, please carry on.
No, that's just basically it. And I just can't believe they're like trying to salvage this situation like this. It looks so bad on Eddie. I can't believe Eddie is so social media savvy or compared to the others. And how is someone like that AJ situation where he was going mad in the ring and one of his pals didn't just go to him, listen, bro, you are making a mug of yourself. You need to just come on now, yeah? Someone needs to put their arm around Eddie and say, bro, Eddie's just blinded by the notes. That's why I said he can't be long for this sport because he's dragging his whole reputation and the reputation of Matchroom boxing through the mud by taking this fight on.
Do you think that the bottom line of what we're seeing here, by the way, guys, 672 currently in the chat, only 162 likes. If you can please feel free to hit the like button. If you like the content that we're delivering, please feel free to hit the like button here. Jason, do you think the bottom line of it is here that what we're seeing here is the result of desperation? Is what we're seeing here, the bottom line is DAZN have launched in the UK. They've had an absolute nightmare of a time. The subscriber numbers aren't very low. They said they weren't going to do pay-per-view. They're now doing pay-per-view. Not only are they doing pay-per-view, Jason, but it seems like you have to buy pay-per-view and pay for a month's subscription to DAZN on top of it. So it's not that you can just buy it on pay-per-view, as far as I'm aware. You have to buy pay-per-view and you have to subscribe to a month of DAZN to get this fight. So, look, is it just a case of, look, DAZN are in a bit of trouble. The numbers are starting to not add up. Do you know what I mean? Anthony Joshua was a big cash cow. That fight didn't land on DAZN. That ended up on Sky. That was a disaster. Anthony Joshua got beaten. Conor Benn really shouldn't even be in this fight. I mean, I think we can sense the desperation, Jason, for how this fight was made. I mean, we've got a welterweight going up against the middleweight, super middleweight. Do you know what I mean? Is this is what's really going on down here is that Eddie's fucked up. Yeah, he was with Sky. He got a bit too big for his boots. He went to the zone. Things aren't working out, and now it's panic stations. What do you think, Jason?
100%, you're spot on. Like 100% with everything you have said, Ultra. Like you are 99.99% of the time. How can Eddie try and compare this fight to taking it to Luxembourg, like he will do if he hasn't already, like the fight with David Hay? That fight was because two guys were too aggressive and too violent towards each other, which is just something for boxing. This guy has apparently failed a test for a drug which can give you up to 200 times the testosterone levels in a fight where the guy is coming down to a weight he's never been and then has a rehydration clause. What the fuck is going on? What the fuck? This is outrageous. It's fucking outrageous, man. Eddie needs to just fucking he needs to have his license taken off him if he goes through with this. Honestly, this is disgusting for the sport. And the thing is, I haven't found one person, you always get people disagreeing, like Gareth A. Davis, these people. I'm not saying I don't care for any of these people's opinion, but you always get them disagreeing. And not one person has said this fight goes on. Not one person in the comments has said this fight goes on. Matchroom casuals are saying this fight shouldn't go on. 90% of them. This is ridiculous. How is Hearn pushing forward with this?
All right, Jason. Let's leave it at that. All right, brother. You absolutely smashed it out the park. I don't know. I'm hoping we're going to be around on Saturday. If we're here on Saturday, you coming on?
100% I'll be here, man.
I really appreciate you coming on at short notice, man. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Listen, you know the drill. If I'm here on Saturday, then so will you.
Love it.
See
man.
you then.
See you later, mate, yeah?
See you soon, Jay. See you soon. The big dog. Big dog. Give me press number 7 if you're about that Jason Walker. Press number 7 if you're about Jason Walker. Right, let's finish off with some audio from Frank Warren. Who wants to hear what the boss has to say about it? Who wants to hear about the boss, yeah? Frank Warren there. You guys love Jason. Jason came on short notice, so if you want to hear Jason full flow, fingers crossed, if we're about on Saturday night, we're supposed to be doing the post-fight. But it's fight. Look at the 7s. Jeez, you guys are loving Jason Walker, boy. Right. 650 in the chat. Please feel free to hit the like button. If you'd like to be part of the chat, please feel free to subscribe. We're not going anywhere yet. We're not quite done yet. If anybody would like to jump on, let me know. Shout out to Ricky Gravel. I see Ricky Gravel in the chat. Shout out to Ricky Gravel. We know about all Ricky. Shout out to Ricky. Right, let's get Bricktop. Bricktop's had a few things. So let's see what Bricktop has to say about it quickly, and then we'll see if a few more of you want to talk. I mean, I'm a bit reluctant to get you guys on because I'm worried about what's going to be said. But let's see. I've got the mute button, so we'll see how it goes. If a few of you want to come on, does anybody want to come on? If you want to come on, let me know. I can't. There's no Abdul. People are calling for Abdul, but we can't see any Abduls in here at the minute. But we'll always bring Abdul in. Right. Let me quickly bring in Frank Warren. This is Big Frank. Let's see what Big Frank's saying.
Conor's coming up in weight, so what has he got to do? It's not going to be a trouble for him making weight. The fact is he'll be giving weight away and giving height away, and also to bulk up for the fight. He won't want to come in very light, and he's obviously been bulking up. And the guy who's been working with him in the gym, he's a doctor who actually took his website down today. It's no longer on there, but he specialises in male hormone replacement. And the drug that's been found, so I believe, is a woman's fertility drug that are used for women who are having problems with conceiving. But if you give it to men, it raises their testosterone and builds muscles, amongst many other things. So that is a banned substance. It's a banned substance by UK, but obviously he's got through the UK test, but he has failed a test, and you can't.
So that was Frank Warren there. That's cut off. We haven't got the full footage, but that is Frank Warren there giving his fucking 2 cents on on what's been going on. Right, we've got some callers coming on. You just give me a sec. I haven't even... Listen, I'll tell you the rules right now. We're not accusing Conor Benn of anything, all right? We're not accusing Conor Benn of a thing, all right? We're not making any accusations against Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. We're purely giving our opinion on whether this fight should take place, all right? As Games You Love says, the views of any callers do not represent the views of this channel. With that being said, Josh, how you doing?
Yo, hello, can you hear me, mate?
I can hear you, brother. How you doing this evening? You all good?
Great, mate. Yeah, I'm doing great.
All right, brother. All right, let's see how this goes. All right, brother.
Yeah.
Give us your initial feelings on the fight and whether you think this fight should take place and what you feel about what's been going on today.
To be honest with you, to be honest, remember that time when Tyson Fury fucking... Am I allowed to swear?
No, yes, you are. No, you are.
Okay, okay. Basically, do you remember that time when Tyson Fury did his drug test?
Correct.
It came back negative against
I do.
Klitschko. Yeah, and he still fought. I don't know why though. Why fucking Chris Eubank?
Just a quick correction. I'm just saying. I think Tyson Fury did have a failed drugs test, but I don't think it was just before the Klitschko fight. I think it was before the Hammer fight. If I'm wrong in the chat, please correct me and let me know. I think just before the Klitschko fight and after, I do think Fury tested okay, but I think it was before the Hammer fight. Again, I'm not trying to say that's right or wrong. I just want to make that clear. Sorry, Josh, please carry on.
Nah, it's good, but to be honest, I think this fight should go ahead. I don't see why Conor Benn would want to like ruin this fight. He's been training hard, better than Chris. Like, don't get me wrong, you've been seeing him. Chris, I don't know if this is true. But to be honest, since I've seen that live video on the Zone, I think Chris has been playing a bit of mind games. You know what I mean? He hasn't been. I think him eating them burgers and all that from his. I bet that came out of snap memories, but it is what it is. But both of them want to fight.
No, you are right in what you're saying. You sound just like Joe Calzaghe, by the way. Both of them do want the fight. Let me ask you my first question.
Yeah, 100%.
This fight takes place on Saturday night, right?
Yep.
And the fight takes place, and Chris Eubank Jr. collapses in the changing room after the fight, and has to go to hospital for a brain scan, right? After it's been announced and known that one of the fighters involved, right, has had an adverse finding. What would happen to British boxing? How would Matchroom ever be able to promote again in Britain? How would that work? Let me know.
That's pretty tough. I mean.
What would it look like legally if something happened to Chris Eubank and something happened and he suffered damage to the point where he can never box again? What would there be a legal case there against those involved? Would we be in the court?
Yeah, 100%.
So
taking someone's life.
Why would we? So no, it's okay. I'm just asking, like, do you think it's worth the risk? Is what I'm trying to ask you. I know the likelihood of that happening, touch wood, is low, but do you think it's still worth the risk? What do you think?
I think it's worth the risk. The fans want it. I don't see why Conor Benn would fucking, you know what I mean? Like, fail the drug test. But stupid. I don't understand why. Like, what?
Yeah, but the fans want it, right? But isn't it not just about what the fans want? Isn't it about fighter safety? Because we're not the ones going into the ring risking our lives, isn't it? It's not me and you who are going in a ring and getting punched in the head, right? It's Eubank, isn't it? And we all know with fighters, don't we, Josh? Like, fighters sometimes can be their worst enemy. How many times in fights, Josh, have we seen a fighter, they're bruised and battered in a corner and they should not continue, and they keep saying, no, I want to continue. And the corner want to pull them out and they say, no, give me one more round. You may have known of a famous fighter called Arturo Gatti. It's very famous for that kind of thing. You know, sitting in a corner all beaten up, you know, we're pulling you out, give me one more round. Sometimes fighters are their worst enemy, aren't they? They're their worst enemy because they're fighters. But surely, Josh, like, we have these structures in place, like the British Board of Control and also promoters. Isn't it down to these people to actually sometimes just look after the boxers and sometimes say, well, actually, do you know what? Enough's enough. We're not going to let you make this decision, actually. We're going to make this decision for you. Does that make sense? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that makes, I agree with all that. Fighter safety, all that. Yeah, I agree with it. It's good. It's just, I don't know why. I don't know, but like, both of the fighters have been wanting this for how long? How long has this been going on for? I don't even know. But I don't know why Conor Benn would do something like this. Like, I don't understand.
No, it's okay. All right.
I don't understand. It's just
Well,
stupid, man. And then you see Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is like, he's just waffling as well. He just wants his payday. He just wants the fight to happen and get his payday. He just wants to run away. Like, did you hear him today? What was it on the zone? He said I think it was in the lift. He was saying Conor before his podcast with I don't know who it was. He's like, because Conor Ben was saying like he's gonna go after this fight. He's gonna go see his family. I don't know where for like 2 months. And fucking what was his name? Someone said, could be fighting in December. And he's like, nah, I'm going on holiday. So clearly Eddie Hearn just wants the money. So, I mean,
we'll have to wait and see. No worries. All right, Josh, thank you very much for calling in. And
No worries,
like I
mate.
said before,
No
look, I understand. I do understand. Look, I think some of us, I understand. Look, from a fan's perspective, you want to see the fight. Do you know what I mean? And I understand that. I think deep down, Josh, to be honest, we kind of all want to see it. But it's a question of is it right or not. But thanks for calling, my man.
No bother, mate. No bother.
Take care, brother. Take care. All right, we've got our next caller coming in. It's Tony's with. I just know we're gonna. But listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. Any trolling, any funny voices, any accusations, I'm just gonna mute. Don't even bother coming in because I'm just gonna mute because I'm only interested in serious callers here. Because like I said before, my backside's on the line. How are we doing, Tony?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing very well. Okay. What are your feelings about this fight? I'm going ahead.
So I called in for a different angle, and I'm not making any accusations, all right? What I called in to say was there's been a lot of misinformation about what this drug is used for. Not saying he did it, not saying he didn't do it, and not saying that he did it for the purposes of why the drug is used in male athletes. But I just want to explain why an athlete would take it if they were to take it. Is that okay?
Please go forth.
So this clomiphene is a estrogen blocker. Why is that important when it comes to athletics? Because when male athletes or bodybuilders are just some dude who just does steroids, so to say, for no reason at all other than to be in shape. The reason why people take this drug is because it's an estrogen blocker. When you go on an 8-week or a 12-week cycle and you come off, your test drops because you are not naturally creating tests. Your body is relying on the synthetic testosterone to up your test level, so therefore your natural production lowers. Now, when you come off of those drugs, you're no longer taking in synthetic testosterone. Your body has not restarted yet. Therefore, you're not producing the normal amount of testosterone that you would. What ends up happening is the body counterbalances and increases your estrogen. It goes through the roof. Now, side effects of this could be like gynecomastia. It can make you weaker, more emotional, etc. So you take a drug like this post-cycle to keep the estrogen from rising as your natural test comes back. That is why you would take it. So most athletes who do take this, it's a good indicator, not making accusations for anybody, but I'm just saying it's a good indicator that this individual was more than likely on some type of steroid, whether it be testosterone, DECA, Anavar, etc. That's what it's used for.
I really appreciate that comment. I do not have the level of expertise that you do, on this. I'm 100% clean. I don't even take Lemsip at the minute, to be honest. So I don't know what you know. And I think that everything you said, I don't have a single problem with anything you've said. And it's like I said before, I've seen people who've used it and they seem to be saying pretty much exactly what you are saying on here right now. I've got to be careful with my follow-ups to you because I've got to be careful. Let me ask you a question while you're still here, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Do you have any opinions on whether the fight should take place or not? How would you feel if it was your guy? How would you feel if you were in the Eubank corner about this fight taking place? Just give me some views on what you think about this fight taking place.
I mean, this is a hard question because it's a little loaded in the aspect of both fighters want it to happen. Chris Eubank is okay with it happening. So it's a hard argument to say that it should not happen. However, if Ben was on PEDs and that is true, you have to look at it from another angle where you protect the fighter because a fighter's supposed to fight. So a fighter's going to want to fight regardless of the outcome. Here's the issue that I see. It's two-sided. One, you've got a guy cutting more weight than he's ever cut before. So that's already right there kind of sus. Then on top of it, he cannot rehydrate to what he's normally used to rehydrating to. That's another issue. Then on top of it, there's a possibility that the guy that he's fighting is on PEDs. I would say that from I want to take care of my fighter aspect. No, it should not. Not with knowing all the circumstances. It should not continue.
Would you mind if I just give you my opinion on that, and then you can tell me if I'm right or wrong?
Go ahead.
My opinion on it is the following. Like I said, I've only sparred. I've been in a lot of gyms over the last 6-7 years, right? From my perspective, it's the following. From what I've known about fighters, like you said, fight. And fighters don't always make the right decisions. You may have heard me on the last call talk about the times where we've seen fighters in the corner carry on fighting when they're done. Yeah. In fact, we had a famous or semi-famous fighter actually die in the ring very, very recently in a tragic accident. And there's actually footage of that fighter in the corner with his corner trying to pull him out and begging him to pull him out, and him saying no, 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 no. And in the end, I think he carried on fighting a round or two extra, went backstage, collapsed, and never came back. And that was the end of it. So my point would be, we have structures in place in boxing. And we have structures in place to hopefully, help protect the fighters from themselves. Do you know what I mean? And not leave all the decision making in the hands of the fighter. Because I think sometimes when you leave all the decision making in the hands of the fighter, because fighters are emotional, they're fighting, they train, they're starving themselves, they maybe don't make the right decisions. And I think just in this case, right, with what you've said also about the weight cut, but most importantly, I think that the substance that's been flagged here, right, that you've raised, it's the substance that you've raised. I think they're different levels of substances, right? Some substances, in my opinion, are a little bit more serious than other substances. I think it's the seriousness of the substance, the likelihood of how that substance could have got into the system. I think you couple that, all right, with the danger to the fighter, and I just think we're in a situation where the board and somebody should step in and say, no, you know what? We're not just going to accept the fact that Eubank's fine with it. We're not just going to accept the fact that both the fighters are fine with it. We have to be the grown-ups. We have to step in now, and we have to say, look, this is enough. Because if we don't stop it now, where do we draw the line? We've got fighters. We've got 3 days away from a big fight, and it's been announced that one of them may have failed a drugs test. And if we allow this to continue, where do we draw the line? What do you think about that? Do you think that's a fair opinion to have?
No. I agree with everything that you say. I mean, I cannot find fault in any of your logic. Unfortunately, I will say this. I have heard Eddie Hearn in a few interviews, and he has gone on to say that there's a possibility that they would not use you, or they would not use the Bbboc. They go with a different sanctioning body. They
Correct.
also stated that the Bbboc does not recognize VADA, so therefore, Ben should not be suspended or have any adverse reactions happen. So when you're dealing with millions and millions and millions of dollars, they're going to try to find any loophole they can to get out of it.
Exactly.
While I agree with you 1,000%, I'm not confident that with everything you said, this fight would be stopped.
No, I 100% agree with you. I believe that we will see this fight on Saturday, 100%. There's quite simply too much money involved. And that's why, I'm focusing on if the fight should happen, really from a moralistic standpoint. And you missed the beginning of the show, but we did actually question some of the things that Eddie Hearn said, because we do think there's some inconsistencies in what Eddie Hearn's saying. I haven't seen any rulings from anybody anywhere which show that the Bbboc don't recognise VADA testing. I've yet to see that, but if anybody can see that, they're welcome to show that. And I don't know if you also saw earlier on, but Eddie Hearn compared this situation to the Billy Joe Saunders situation, where Billy Joe tested positive for oxylifrene. And I also said, look, as you can see on the screen, we've got the list of banned substances from the World Anti-Doping Code right in front of us, and we can see the difference between what Billy Joe took and the difference between what Conor Benn is allegedly accused of taking is that what Conor Benn took is prohibited at all times, in and out of competition. You know all about it. You seem to be very knowledgeable, and you know why it's banned in and out of competition. What Billy Joe Saunders took is only banned in competition, and Billy Joe Saunders never took that drug in competition. He took it beforehand. So completely different situations. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing? You've been very, very knowledgeable, and the callers have enjoyed you. Is there anything you'd like to say, shout out, or say in closing?
Well, I'll say this. I agree with you in the aspect of, I agree, but I disagree. While this substance is banned year-round, to me, the concern isn't the substance itself. It's what was possibly, I'm picking my words carefully because I have a channel as well. So I've been doing the same thing. I'm not trying to get liable for anything. So I'm trying my best to tiptoe around this on your platform as well. But my main concern would not be the drug that he actually got popped for, but the reason for him taking that drug, which would be a lot more serious performance enhancing drugs that it would be used for after the fact. So what Billy Joe Saunders was taking was just something that, while in an endurance sport, it will help. You know, it was more for endurance. It wasn't masking. It wasn't getting your estrogen down so your tests could come back. Two different, like you said, two different classifications of drugs and two different reasons why you would use them. So on my closing, I would say I agree with you 1,000% on everything you said, but we'll just have to see how it unfolds in the next 3 days. Thank you for letting me know.
Tony, what's your channel? They're asking what your channel is. Is that the name of your channel, Tony's Reviews? Oh, we missed him. Tony, if you oh, it's here. Right, he's an ex-boxer, so this guy knows what he's talking about. Here we go. Ex-amateur boxer. Surprise, surprise. No surprise there. You know, you hear someone like Tony, you know he knows what he's talking about. If any of you like to follow Tony, there's a link to Tony's channel right now in the chat. There you go. As you can see it here, it's in the link. Tony, I hope we did you proper. Daniel, I'll bring you in just 3 seconds, all right? I hope I did you right there, Tony. And like I said before, it is what it is. If anybody would like to hear more from Tony, there's Tony's Reviews. Yeah, listen. Like I said, I mean, I've got to be careful what I say, but actually, I'm not going to carry on. Let's just bring in Daniel. Daniel.
Hello, mate.
How you doing, Daniel? You all good?
Yeah, not too happy about Saturday.
All right, brother. All right, let's go. As long as we don't say anything that is going to get the lawyers on, just give us your thoughts on what's happened today and how you feel about the fight taking place, not taking place, etc., etc.
Where do you start with something like this? He's allegedly popped. Where do you go with that? I mean, Chris still agreeing to fight with him. It's debatable. Would I watch it? Yes.
I would.
Is that bad? Probably.
Yes.
Morally completely wrong. But look, it's so rife in the sport of boxing. What do you do? There has to, you know, Ben's a big name. I was thinking today, Ben is a huge name. Once the B sample comes back, if it is, you know, positive again, do they make a ruling? Do they make an example? What do you think?
Can I ask you a question? I could be wrong on this. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't have the answers. Do you think that from running a show, right? Let's pretend we're promoters and we're running a boxing show, right? Yeah. And we find out that one of our fighters on the card has, you know, potentially had a problem with an adverse finding. Would it not be the responsible thing to do to postpone the show and shut the show down until all relevant findings have happened? So until all investigations have completed, until we know all the facts, until a decision's been made over whether we're going to ask for a B sample to be tested or whether we're going to ask for the B sample to waive, would it not make a little bit more sense for us to wait until we have a little bit more information before we, especially as said, when the British Boxing Board of Control have said they are not comfortable with putting this fight on as it stands? With all those circumstances happening, right? Okay, the alleged drug test issue, the British Boxing Board of Control have said they're not happy with this fight taking place, the media storm that's taken place. Would it not be right for us to postpone this fight, let it breathe for a couple of months, and come and bring it back once the dust settles? Why does it have to take place this Saturday?
In a professional setting, of course, and you're 100% right. And now you've said it. Of course, I'm wrapped up in the last 8 weeks of promotional hype.
No, hold on a minute. No, you're not. What you're saying makes perfect sense because I'm talking from a holistic point of view. What I'm saying isn't realistic. The realistic thing is they've put fucking millions and millions of pounds into this event, yeah? And people have bought tickets and paid for hotels, and it's going to be a big fuck up if they have to cancel it with 3 days short. It's going to be a whole massive fuck up. Carry on. What you're saying is fine.
Of course it is. Of course it is. But it's the right thing to do. In any other industry, you know, that's what they do. You're 100% right. That's what they do in any other industry. But boxing, it comes from a different place, doesn't it? In terms of its origin and how it maybe once was, or you know.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how do you think it makes British boxing look? What's going on right now?
Abysmal, shocking, terrible, disgusting. How you can pull a million freaking words to describe how it makes it look right now, but all eyes are on us, and you know how it is. Any press is good press, regardless of how bad it is. You know, regardless of how bad it is. Look at the amount of noise is now around this fight. It's going to sell double if it goes ahead and goes to pay-per-view. It's going to sell double, probably. It's mental. It's mental. But you're completely right in saying, and I agree. In any other sport or in any other profession, this doesn't go ahead. There's an investigation. It gets postponed until something comes out in future, and it may go ahead at a later date if everything's okay.
Let me ask you another question, because what you're saying is actually correct. I don't know, I don't really care about numbers, but I would imagine that it's not out of the realms of possibility now that maybe more eyes are going to watch this. Like you said, sometimes there's an old saying, there's no such thing as bad press, right? Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you something about that. So let's go along with that, because I think you could be on something with that, right? But let me ask you something. The whole point of them making this fight was to try and make Conor Benn a star, right? That's the impression I got, right? The whole point was to try of making this fight. They're essentially
on the way down.
That's it. They're essentially taking a welterweight and putting him against the middleweight with the hope that their welterweight Conor Benn. Of course.
He just for a second. He walks around at 168.
Who? Conor. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he has to cut the weight to get in the ring and then put it back.
Okay. You know what? He never used to be the biggest welterweight. Let me look at him early in his career. He was pretty, but okay, we'll go along with that. All right. So Conor Benn is going in with Chris Eubank Jr. and Matchroom have the intention of doing this fight to make Conor Benn a crossover star. Would you agree with that? They want to make him a crossover star. They want to get him to cross over in the mainstream. I would say,
it makes the risk credible as well.
Right. But I would doubt that that's possible now. And the reason why I would doubt that is because, as I've said before, even if Conor Benn wins this fight, right? The first thing people are going to say is Conor Benn won this fight because of what we're talking about. For me, other than the money, I'm going to ask you, other than the money, what does Conor Benn have to gain from going into the ring? Because money's very important. Money's a big thing. But other than the money, I don't see how he can be a crossover star. I think his name's tainted. I think he can recover from this, but I think his name's going to be tainted for quite a while, especially with the circumstances and what he's taken. I don't see what the upside is for Conor Benn other than money.
Yeah, so with the information available now, Conor's team should have pulled him out of the fight 100%. They should have seen it and sort of brushed it under the carpet, kept him out of the limelight for a couple of weeks. You know how it goes. It's been done before in many different facets, maybe not under the same circumstances, but it's been, you know what I mean? It's been done. That's what they should have done. If I was in Conor's team, that's what I'd be doing, of course, because it does tarnish the name. It does everything that they wanted to gain through this fight. It's now gone. It's gone.
Is there anything else you'd like to add in closing? Just anything, any thoughts, anything that comes to your head, thoughts about the fight, just anything that comes to your head.
What a hypocrisy Eddie Hearn is, you know. I love the sport. It brings the sport into disrepute. But let's hope it goes ahead on Saturday. Thank you.
All right, brother. No worries, brother. Thank you very much for coming on. If we're still here on Saturday for doing the post-fight, you're welcome back.
Nah, cheers, mate. See you soon,
man. See you soon. All right, let's bring in my man, BB Chase here. Jesus Christ. These guests I'm doing my best here. Just want to add fantastic content. Found your channel, and I'll be tuning in on all the boxing talk. When people call in, to be fair, I do try to do my best to give people their say. I don't try and do any of the fake gangster shit. I don't try and intimidate or try and trying to strong arm people. I just try and give people their say. As long as it's within reason, it is what it is. Hey, Bumper Clarty!
Hey, how you doing, brother? You good?
What's squatting, bro? What's squatting? All right, brother, hit me with it. Let's hear it.
Bruv, I think, for me personally, if this had been an Olympic sport, this would have been sorted a long time ago. I think that with boxing, what you do have is the issue that whereabouts you don't have the same level of testing 30 days before the fight. International athletes should be looked and studied for their testosterone levels. It's a well-known fact that with testosterone, you can use many products, such as, grooming products, which is what Lance Armstrong and so many people have insinuated to, that lowers the level of testosterone. And if you look at testosterone as an issue, people can mask it in many different ways. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G samples need to be taken into consideration into the sport in the right way, and it needs to be done 30 days in a closed environment to allow the fighters to sort it out with the relevant boards before. Until the sport does that in a way that would be befitting of the Olympics or something like that, you've got an issue. And my issue with the sport at the moment is that they haven't displayed the level of professionalism to unallow all these people to be disrupted. You've got so many people who are going to lose out. You've got promoters, you've got bookies, you've got people who tout, you've got hotels, you've got people who've got, ordered pies. You've got all this stuff that's happened. And because we're now in that situation because of a late test, it can't give any credibility to the British Board of Boxing or anybody else that's involved. And that's my opinion. These things can be averted. They should be averted. And until the sport starts working in the right way and using the mechanisms in the background to get the right judgment out, we'll always be disappointed at times like this on super fights and not get the fight out that we all wanted to see.
Can I ask you something?
Of course.
This result happened in September. I'm not 100% sure on the date, but apparently it was around September the 23rd. All right, that's what the journalist who broke the story from the Daily Mail said. So let's just say around.
I've got an echo in the background, but yeah.
So sorry, okay, no problem. But around about September the 23rd, apparently, is when this result may have came out. So a couple of weeks ago. With that being said, do you think that two weeks of knowing that one of your fighters has potentially tested for a prohibited substance, do you think 2 weeks is enough time to make the suitable judgment call on look, whether this fight should take place or not, and then make this sort of required recommend? What I'm trying to get at is they've known for 2 weeks, basically, allegedly.
But this is where, if you've got a good lawyer, you get a super injunction in order to make sure that this doesn't get out into the public eye.
Right.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get, that's fine. What I'm trying to get at is, my opinion is, you can, if you don't agree, it's fine. My opinion is, right, with the promoters knowing, right, around about September time, right, that somebody is going into a ring, and there's a question mark there over whether they've taken performance enhancing drugs or not, right? Especially for a fight of that magnitude. For me, at that point, right, we start making preparations to postpone the fight, move the fight to another day, and do that.
You don't postpone. The thing is that the ability to test for drugs is there, and the technology is there. And if the British Boxing Board of Control don't have access to the speed of testing B, C, D, E, F, G samples at this stage in the sport, with the money that's around the sport and mixing around for this, then that's negligence on their behalf, from my view as a punter. Do you see what I mean? Because there are too many external factors involved in profiteering from this fight. You've got people flying in. you've got journalists flying in, you've got boxers who are flying in, you've got camera equipment, you've got insurance, you've got, hotels. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. It's there's a duty of care to make sure that as a boxing board of control, that you test this person to within an inch of their life before it becomes untenable that the fight actually takes place. And if they can't do that like they would in the Olympics or any other sport, then it's a negligent on their part. When you had athletes in the village in the Olympics and stuff like that testing positive for COVID, they knew how to do that, and they knew how to do everything that they needed to do in order to get things done, so that when athletes took to the track, to the ring, to whatever, that they were tested, they were clean, they were etc. etc. We can do that in boxing too, and it's they're letting us down, and they're letting down the sport by not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why, and then that's fine. I disagree because of the following, right? The Olympics, first and foremost. I mean, the Olympics is absolutely full of drug cheats from top to bottom. I mean, there are countless.
With Russia.
Yeah, there are countless episodes. You could do a who's who all day of athletes that have passed tests during, before, and after the Olympics. And it's later on turned out that they're using performance-enhancing drugs. An example of that would be the 100 meters list, the list of 100-meter world record holders. I think something like 95% of them, somewhere down the line, either before or after.
I would disagree with that fact, and you should know because you pulled it out of the air. But we'll continue.
No, I think if you look at the list of, I'll get up. I think if you look at the list of 100-meter world record holders, we can get up. You're
looking at Ben Johnson. You're looking at what's his name, Donovan Bailey. You're looking at
not Donovan Bailey actually. But if you look at names like
and you're also looking at the Tyson Gay.
I think if you just let me finish, I think there is a stat on that, and we can get that up another time. But there is definitely a stat on the number of 100-meter world record holders who have subsequently either tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs or been implicated in a performance-enhancing drug scandal. So someone like Maurice Green, for instance, was never actually tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, but they have emails from Maurice Green asking for growth hormone, and those are documented and available on the internet. So what I'm trying to say about the following is, I think it's the following. I think at the minute, we've got, there's a whole industry around. I've got to be careful what I say here, but there's a whole there's a whole entire industry that's there of scientists and chemists with the intention of helping athletes beat these tests. That's the bottom line of it. If you just let me finish.
Do you remember when Messi with the human growth hormone? I agree. And what happened to that scientist?
If you just let me finish one sec. So all I'm trying to say is, in my opinion, there's a whole industry of scientists and people who are there specifically to help athletes cycle off at the right time. They're there to check the lists and look at the prohibited list and see what's on the prohibited list. Okay, you can take this. This is not on the list. They're there to develop and come up with new masking agents, okay, to help mask these drugs. So what I'm trying to say is, right, the story of drug testing at the minute is that the testers are currently constantly in a losing battle because they're fighting big money and big money corp and pharmacists that are there to help beat them. So all I'm trying to say in that respect is the following. I respect what you're saying. My only difference of opinion is because of that, I don't think it's a simple case of, it's down to the testing agencies to test these guys enough. And if they don't test them enough and they don't find enough, that it's negligence on their part. My opinion is it's the onus should be on the fighter. The onus should be on the fighter not to take the drugs. And you talk about
the onus is always on the fighter. Do you think? I think the most devastated person on the planet at the moment is Nigel Benn. Nigel Benn's a warrior. He didn't expect this of his son. His family name's been tarnished. He didn't expect his son to actually make weight and put on muscle to actually do something like this. You've got the build up and the zones, you know what I mean, which shows, them preparing their own meals and eating together. We know that people like, Canelo have said, I've been eating too much Argentinian beef. This does happen. But what you have to do with super fights, to make sure that everybody's not disappointed, is that you have to start testing these people from a 3-month basis. We don't have this in UFC, and this is why if you look at UFC, they make sure that that fight doesn't happen. It's just they get a replacement. And we as a boxing, as a sport that we love, has been around more than UFC. And it seems like Dana's got his crap together more than we have in boxing. There is no excuse anymore for the powers that be to not be able to make sure that a 90-day testing, isn't communicated to the fighter with testosterone levels that they can monitor all the way to up until fight night. There's no excuse. They can check it. So yes, the fighter, the onus is on the fighter. Absolutely, but we don't know who in their gym has put something in their water. We don't know who's done what, where, when, how, or what they've consumed. And there's always that excuse as a fighter that, somebody may have infiltrated your camp, etc., etc. So I think for me personally, at the moment, it's a case of we just need to make sure that, there's a 120-day rule. I know this fight has come about rather quickly, but I just think that if we just make sure that the right parameters, as with anything, are put around the security of making sure an event of this magnitude happens, because if this were Wembley or someone like that, everybody will be kicking off. You've already got a lot of money that's lost, and you've already got people that have been tarnished. But I think for me personally, there are measures that you can put in place with anything to ensure that this crap doesn't happen. And rather than the fighter, which I do blame Ben, I still think that we've got our governing bodies and organisations that are looking pretty poor from this.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'll say in closing, I think there have been measures that have taken place. A drug test has taken place, and Conor Benn has found a system, or has had a substance found in his system. I mean, I agree. Earlier on, we looked at the VADA code, the World Doping Anti-Aging Code, and it specifically states in that code they're not interested in how it got in your system. They're not interested in having to prove how it got. They don't have to prove intent.
I agree.
And I think the British Boxing Board of Control, to a degree, look bad because they've known about this for some time, and they've only acted on it now that the public have found out. So I think from that perspective, the British Board of Control have a lot of questions to answer. But at the same time, I would also say really that the real meat of the questions lie with Conor Benn, and the real questions lie with Eddie Hearn. Let me just quickly finish, and I'll let you have the last say. I would say the questions for Conor Benn are: how did this get in your system? How did a female fertility drug find its way into your system when, according to people on the internet who have used the drug, it's one of the most popular and well-known substances for when you're coming off a cycle? They'll have to explain that, and Eddie Hearn will have to. And let me just say, Eddie Hearn will have to explain. After Eddie Hearn's said basically that somebody's going to get killed in a sport of boxing if this continues. We've read quotes from Eddie Hearn saying somebody is going to die if this continues in a sport. And then what will happen? Will it be considered murder? We should bring criminal charges against people who are caught with performance enhancing drugs in the boxing ring. And yet he's known for a couple of weeks that there's been a problem, and the fight's still going ahead, and he's actually pushing for the fight to go ahead, even against the wishes of the British Boxing Board of Control. And that's the point that I wanted to make there. But I really appreciate, I think you just dropped the line, sorry, but I really appreciate that. And I hope you thought I gave you your fair say there. And that's just my opinion, guys, on that. I don't know what you guys, I don't know what you guys feel about that. I said, I don't think that the problem is necessarily here a failure necessarily with the testing. I think the testing to a degree has worked because VADA has flagged up that somebody has had an adverse finding, isn't it? So what do you guys think about that? I think it's not necessarily the point that the testing hasn't worked to a degree. I hope I'm not misrepresenting what this guy's saying. What I'm saying is, the process has worked to a degree because we found out that one of the fighters has failed a test. What's now gone on is that the promoter is now trying to put the fight on. And the promoters turned around and said VADA is the gold standard. He said that VADA is the standard when it comes to testing. So why are we ignoring VADA results? That's what I don't understand. All right, let's just see. Hang 'em up boxing. How are we doing?
Good, thank you. Can you hear me?
Oh, God. Another person come on to attack me. Do you know what? I was supposed to get off like fucking 45 minutes ago. Do you know that? Jesus Christ. All right. Give us your views on if the fight should happen or not. What are your views on what's been happening?
Well, it was an interesting conversation you just had. I think for me that the fight shouldn't go ahead, obviously. I think when you're weight draining someone, and that's potentially risky anyway, and then you're adding, I guess, that extra, well, dangers of someone being on sort of PEDs, allegedly, obviously. I just think that's recipe for disaster, especially with Eubank history as well. Just, you know, the name and what happened with Watson, etc. This is just not a good look. But I'm like you. I feel like, to be honest, the blame is very much on sort of obviously the Benn team, but also Matchroom and Hearn. I just can't believe that he was willing to just let this go silently and basically let this fight happen. And it just shows you, again, money just completely dominates this sport, and anything that comes out of any promoter's mouth is complete rubbish.
I mean, yeah, I hope I didn't mischaracterize what the last caller said, and maybe I didn't understand. I definitely think they made some fantastic points. Maybe, like I said, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe there can be some changes to the way we do testing. You know, maybe we can start testing these fighters more often and getting a baseline of how much testosterone they have over a certain period, and then compare it to whatnot and whatnot. But for me, look, the bottom line of it, and I don't know what you think, and I don't know if you think I was being unfair, the bottom line of it is this, right? The bottom line of it is the following, right? We've heard from Eddie Hearn, Tony Bellew and these guys that that there's a problem with doping in sport, which I agree. There's a problem with doping in boxing. They have specifically said, and I will get the quotes up in a minute, they have specifically said that if this continues, right, that there's going to be a death in the sport of boxing. I mean, you can look at some of the articles that were released at the time of Jarrell Miller testing positive. Look at this, look. Jarrell Miller committing attempted murder by being found drug cheating for a second time. What seems to annoy me is how we seem to bury American fighters and bury fighters from other countries. But when it's British fighters, all of a sudden we seem to start looking for loopholes and talking about dates and testing and VADA versus UCAD and this versus that. The bottom line of it is, for me, hang 'em up boxing, and you let me know if I'm thinking I'm wrong. Eddie Hearn is on record as saying, yeah, and I can play the video again, right? He's on record as saying that VADA is the best testing agency going. That's what he's on record as saying, right? That's his words, not mine. I'll play the video after you finish talking. That's what he said, right? As far as I'm concerned, right, one of his fighters has tested or had an adverse finding. The bottom line of it is now, right, it's now down for him to act appropriately with that finding. And I don't think that that he's been acting appropriately. Sorry, hang 'em up boxing. Please chat away.
No, he hasn't. Of course he hasn't, because
what's the point in having, again, what is the point in having VADA testing? Again, no one can answer this. What is the point in having VADA testing? You've seen the videos on today's channel. Eddie Hearn said that, you know, he wasn't happy with Joshua Barazzi fighting John Pascal because there wasn't any VADA testing in the contract, right? So he wants VADA testing. Well, now he's got VADA testing for Eubank and Benn. One of his fighters has had a problem with a VADA test, and now all of a sudden the fight's still going ahead. What's the point, right, in hiring VADA if they're finding adverse findings, but we're putting these fighters in there anyway? Well, we might as well just not fucking bother, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is with Hearn, and again, not just to label Hearn, but it's the same with any promoter. He's not really bothered about VADA when it comes to Barazzi and whoever else. He just wants everything in his favour. Yeah, it's just if he doesn't fancy the fight or it's not on Matchroom's terms, he doesn't want it. And he doesn't want to put his fighters there to make other broadcasters money. It's as simple as that. You know, like we've heard all sorts of rumours about other Matchroom fighters with TUEs, etc. It really is rife in the sport, but it's rife in all sports. Everybody is cheating because there are doctors, literally scientists, doctors paid to beat tests. It's what they do.
And that's exactly the point I tried to make to the last caller about the Olympics. The Olympics is absolutely rife full of drug cheats, and passing drugs tests before and after the Olympics doesn't mean... Marion Jones won 5 Olympic gold medals, right? Marion Jones, how many drugs tests did she pass? I think Marion Jones passed anywhere from 70 to 100 tests over her career and won 5 Olympic gold medals. Marion Jones was an admitted PED user throughout her career, including the Olympic Games. Please carry on, hang 'em up boxing.
What people don't understand is more money is spent on research to beat these tests than they are actually beating, like actually creating the tests, right? The only way you catch people is once you basically, you invest more money for research, but you've already found out ways of cheating. That's how it works. That is why you watch, I don't know if you've ever seen Icarus, the documentary about how the the Russian government were basically cheating and playing with all the samples of their Olympics team, basically, and the whole government was in it. So it's from the bottom to the top when it comes to cheating. But that's standard sport, right? If you played football at any level or any sport in the playground, if you can cheat, you cheat. If the ball goes out, you say it hasn't. So you're telling me when millions are on the line, you're not going to spend some extra money to, have your fighter take a certain substance that shouldn't pop on a test, and it does, and then you get these issues, don't you?
Let me ask you a question about Conor Benn. I've said about Conor Benn, I'm not here to blame Conor Benn about anything. Like I said, he needs to go through due process. I am not the judge, jury, and the executioner. All I do is give my opinion, all right? It's not down to me to judge, and I'm not accusing Conor Benn of anything, but he does have questions to answer. Can I ask you a question? I've said, what does Conor Benn have to gain other than money from taking this fight? What do you think?
Wow, so that's literally all they all have to gain, isn't it? That's the reason why he took the fight in the first place, because he wasn't going to beat any top welterweight, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think that's why they've done it. It's a win-win for him. I just, that's all he had. It was money. That it's not really about his dad's name or anything like this. It is literally just money. I'm 100% sort of agreeing with you on that one.
Would you at this point, if it wasn't for the money, would you pull him out? Because for me, like I said before, I understand the money and things like that, but if he wins, he's going to be tainted. It's going to be tainted. No one's going to give him credit. If Conor Benn wins this fight, maybe he should get credit, right? But no one's going to give him credit for it. He's in a lose-lose situation to me.
Yeah, I think as much as I would say I agree, I don't. If I was a promoter, I don't care about anything apart from my money, right? Because that's why you're in promotion. Eddie Hearn doesn't care about this sport, so I wouldn't. But what I would say is, you see Canelo still on that pound for pound list. No one actually cares that he's a drug cheat, a convicted one. They just let it slide. Exactly the same with Dillian Whyte. Gets his title shot within a couple of years of failing, and the B sample going missing. The truth is, by tomorrow, by the Sunday after the fight, no one actually cares. Only hardcores care, but it's not enough.
Well, I'll tell you what, this fight was supposed to bring Conor Benn into the mainstream. I'm not sure that can happen now. Hang him up. Is there anything else you'd like to add or say, or any other thoughts you've got? Anything else?
No, not really. I think the fight will go ahead. That's kind of my thoughts. I think it will go ahead. There's too much money in it, and they'll find a way.
Absolutely. All right, Gav. I really appreciate you, man. And if we're still around on Saturday, you're welcome.
Cheers. Thank you.
See you soon, my man. See you soon. Tinash has been waiting very, very patiently. How are you doing? You ain't heard from you in a while.
Oh, what's up? I just want to say something real quick about the guy that called in previously about the Olympic thing.
Okay, please do.
He said that in the UFC, this has never happened. It's happened in the UFC as well. John Jones tested positive multiple times. They even moved the venue from one state to another to bypass the athletic community there. It was the Gustafsson fight.
Yes. Someone did mention it.
Yeah, also happened with Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. He tested positive for the same thing that Ben tested positive for. But anyway, that's that. Just to bring up what you said as well about Chris, if the fight is hard and Chris Eubank Jr. after the fight collapses in his dressing room, that point you made, of course this fight shouldn't happen. The guy's tested positive. I don't get where the argument can be.
Tinash, stay with me. The point you've just made and the point I'm making, right, is exactly the same point that Frank Warren's just made. You can see it on the screen. This is Frank Warren to Talk Sport. Frank Warren asked if he would cancel Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Yeah, I would. If something goes drastically wrong, what are you going to do about it? Where do you go with that? God forbid if anything went wrong, how do you justify it? If anything happens to Chris Eubank Jr. or Conor Benn in that ring, I don't know how Matchroom can continue to promote boxing in the UK with a straight face. Will it happen? It's unlikely. Do I want it to happen? No. I want them both to get in the ring and be safe, right? But Tinash, it's so funny, isn't it? We always come up with these things. Tony's, what's his called? Tony's reviews. Tony's a former amateur boxer. Tony, what do you think about this, Tony? What do you think about the irony of we always talking about protect yourself at all times? It's boxing. You got to protect yourself at all times. You got to protect yourself at all times. Well, are we doing a good job of protecting our fighters? Are we doing a good job of protecting boxing? Are we doing the best job we can? Tinash, what do you think?
In this instance, of course not, but I think matchroom boxing is getting notorious for just essentially creating their own rules at this point. I don't want to bring up, Dylan White because, that's old now. And, it's been a few years. Nobody cares. Nobody talks about it. It's, who cares about Rivas, right?
No one cared. No one even told him. Carry on.
Yeah, who cares about Rivas? And I think in this fight, I think Eubank will win the fight anyway. Or at least I think he should win it. He should be the favorite to win it, but it's definitely not good. I've already bought the pay-per-views on DAZN, so I possibly
So you need this fight to happen.
Yeah, I don't want it to, in terms of morality, but I've already paid the 28, pounds. So yeah, it's one of those ones.
All right, Tinash. All right. Thank you very much for calling in, man. And you're going to come in, hopefully, maybe we'll hear from you on Saturday if we're still here, okay?
Yeah, you're going to be live during the after the fight, is it?
If we're still around, I'd like to be live after the fight if we're still around, all right?
All right, man. Catch you up.
You're welcome on. No worries. We'll see you then. All right, guys. Right. Does anybody... This is it now. I've got to go. Does anybody else want to come on? If anybody else wants to call in and give their view, it is what it is. Hold on. Let's have a look here. If anybody else wants to call in and have their say, the link's in the chat. These you got the last chance. I hope you guys feel like I've been fair to the callers. Press 7 if you think I've been fair to the callers, and press 7 if you think I've been fair on tonight's show. Like I said before, I don't come on here and try to act the big man, the tough man, and all this gangster shit. I'm not interested in pay-per-view buys, ticket sales. I don't care about any of that fucking shit. I'm just a guy, who enjoys boxing. I enjoy a spar. Right, I've got plenty of mates in boxing. I've got people I know who literally train with Conor Ben. Right, I know people who train in the matchroom gym. Yeah, so look, like I said before, I'm just a guy who I just like putting the gloves on and having a spar really. And I like boxing, but I'm very, very big on fighter safety. That's the one thing I'm big on really is I look at it from the boxer's point of view. I look at how I'd like to be treated. Treat people how you like to be treated. And I'm very, very big on fighter safety because the reality is that Conor Ben and Chris Eubank Jr. are going to fight on Saturday. And the reality is pretty much everything's going to be okay. And yeah, we probably are going to forget about this. But there's just that 0.5% chance, isn't there? And you can't take risks with people's lives. And that's why I'm a bit concerned, innit? I want to see boxers get looked after, And that's by all promoters. Right, we've got one more caller. It's Luke Armstrong. If anybody else wants to call in, you've got the link. Now's the time. Luke, you're live. How you doing?
Yeah, good man. You?
Not too bad, Luke. Do you think I've been fair on today's episode?
Yeah, I think you have, right? So I'll be honest. The selfish part of me wants this fight to go ahead, right? Because I'm a huge fan. So I want to see this fight. But the other part of me says, no, because simply they can make a huge impact in the boxing world if they cancel this and show any cheaters that any fight can be pulled. Because there's not many fights that are bigger than this, you see? So I feel like if Eddie does pull this, or well, not Eddie pulls it because he doesn't want to, but if it is pulled, it's showing actually anything can be pulled in the future. Let
me talk over you. I've cut you off. I've been terrible, but I want to follow up with something before I forget. What you're making is an important point. At the minute, we always talk about setting an example to drug cheats and showing drug cheats that there's nowhere to go in the sport. With what's gone on today in British boxing, I mean, what kind of fucking message does that send to drug cheats? What does it send? It's a disgrace, isn't it? What does it send? What kind of message does it send?
Money talks, mate. That's what it is. Money talks. Eddie's just being a snake. But as well, you've got Senior, right? He knows what happens in this game from Watson to McLennan. He knows what he's done. He knows what Nigel Benn has done. Even his own son. He knows what he's done. You got to think from him right now. He's going, I don't want my son in this position. How would you feel? Again, me, the selfish part of me goes, I want to see this fight. But when the boxing fan, when the true fan of me is there, it's like, no, actually, it needs to be taken off because it's just not, it's not what the sport's about,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really bothered me. when this news broke, I actually found your channel from today.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I got to tell you, you smashed it, man. Like, honestly, it's
thank
brilliant.
you. Let me ask you something else quickly.
Go on.
If this was a foreign fighter, so let's just say if this was Chris Eubank Jr. in a big fight against a foreign fighter, do you think that we'd be having a completely different conversation?
100%. This is Conor Benn. This is behind AJ, probably the biggest fighter in the country that brings the most numbers, you know? I remember there was a few, I think his last fight, and they were talking that he brings the same numbers as Dillian White, if I'm correct.
Okay.
He even talked about it. Conor Benn said I'm a few numbers behind Dillian White on pay-per-view, so he knows it. So let's say this was flip the script. Let's say it's Eubank that's done the drugs cheating. How do you think that goes down?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What do you think? I think he'd be absolutely destroyed. I think the country would be against him. But because obviously boxing fans are against Ben, but I don't think that the majority of the public is, because they still want to see the fight. They don't understand the implications of a drugs cheat. So earlier your caller was talking about the Olympics, yeah? Let's take a 100-meter sprinter, right? If he takes performance-enhancing drugs, okay, you've done it, you've cheated. You are not trying to render anyone else on that track unconscious.
Absolutely.
The sole purpose of boxing. So you're going to outpoint someone or you're going to render them unconscious. When you're doing 100 meters or a pole vault, what's the consequence? Nothing.
I mean, all I'll say is this in closing. I don't want to misrepresent BB Chase, so I'm going to let him come back on and just he can sign out, and then I'll give my final say. What I was going to say is, BB Chase, do you want the link? You can just jump back on and just give us your final say, mate, because I'm not about trying to misrepresent people. So, like I said before, I'll give you final say, and then I'll wrap this show up. I just wanted to say, I was going to say something else, and it just completely dropped my memory. Tony Bellew, what do you think about these guys? All these DAZN cheerleaders, Tony Bellew. I just think the silence is, to be honest, it's quite telling, isn't it?
The silence is deafening. It is. I can't. I don't know what he's going to say. Will he be a company man? Absolutely. Or will he be honest?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's not even just Tony Bellew. I think other people who are, like I said before, I think Conor Benn did an interview today with Chris Lloyd. And I just think, Chris Lloyd, with all due respect, I don't think Chris Lloyd did a very good job. And I think, like I said before, it's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Do you know what I mean? You've got, employees of DAZN out in the media. You've got employees of DAZN working on TalkSport. You've got, employees of DAZN, elsewhere on social media sites. And like I said before, when it's other promotions and other fighters, they've all got something to say. And if you look at them today,
exactly.
It's just, it is what it is. All right, Luke, give us your final opinions, and then we'll move forward.
So I think the fight's going to go ahead. I'm hoping that Eubank kind of can get rid of that rehydration clause and take that, because I didn't like that rehydration clause. I don't believe in them at all. So I hope that goes. And like I said, the selfish part of me wants the fight to go ahead. But the boxing fan says, nah, we can make an example of this. But yeah, mate, well done with your lives. It's brilliant. I've subscribed and I'll be on all of them.
Thank you, man. Done. I really appreciate the support, brother. Thank you very much. Take care.
See you later, man.
All right, guys. Right. I think we are... I want to see if BB Chase wants to have his final say on this, but let's read some comments. Jesus, some of these I can't read. That's the thing. Normally I read all your comments out, or as many as I can, but bloody hell. Let's have a look. Matthew says, listen, other fights have happened with drugs cheats that didn't get found out. People can get hurt. It's contact sport. Okay. I still don't think the fight should take place, though. I still don't think this particular fight should take place. That's just my opinion. Maybe I've got it wrong, Matthew, but for me, in the sport of boxing, if you're a promoter, particularly when you're a promoter and you're on record as saying the things that Eddie Hearn has said, I think that you have at the minimum a moral responsibility to cancel the fight. So I'm just trying to bring up one more of Eddie Hearn's. Of Eddie Hearn's quotes, just to say, just a thing. Here we go. Look, here we go. Let me just bring it up on the screen, Matthew. This is my opinion, right? Okay. Matthew, right? Here's what I'm going to say. If you're on record as saying the following, right? I'm going to say this one more time, right? This is Eddie Hearn quoted, right? And he's quoted in the Sun newspaper. This is Eddie Hearn. Something is going to happen. Someone is going to die. Someone is going to get hurt for life. Someone is going to get paralyzed by a drugs cheat. What happens then is that murder. Now, it's just my opinion, right? That when you start equating, right, fighters taking performance-enhancing drugs and going into a boxing ring with murder, right? When you start equating those two things, when you're running a boxing show and one of your fighters has had a problem with a prohibited substance, I think at the very least, you do have a moral responsibility, all right, to, right, protect the fighters. Again, I'm about protecting fighters, yeah? I think in order to protect Chris Eubank, in order to protect Conor Benn, to protect the fighters, I think you have a moral responsibility at that point to take a financial loss and protect the fighters morally. I'm not saying that's what happens in the real world, but I'm saying morally. When you're willing to equate this with murder, like Eddie Hearn has done, as you've seen it in the quote, what happens then? Is that murder? Well, again, Matthew, if something happens to Chris Eubank in the ring on Saturday night, what would happen then? And that's all I'm trying to say about that. Are we going to see Eddie Hearn in an interview with Simon Jordan anytime soon? I don't think so. That's it. 2 hours. I think we're going to call it a day. Please feel free to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please feel free to subscribe. I've tried to be honest. I don't have all the answers. Like I said before, I'm not a debater. I don't really debate with people. People come on and I just give my opinion, and maybe my opinion's wrong. Maybe there's something I've missed. Maybe I've got a few things wrong. All I do is come on this show and just try and tell you what's on my mind. And I've tried tonight to not be accusatory. I've tried to give Conor Benn the benefit of the doubt. I'm just very, very concerned about the fight taking place. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. And yeah, what do you guys think? Hope you take care of yourselves and take care of each other.